Well, welcome everyone to our webinar today. I'm very excited to be hosting Robin and having a nice dialogue around our digital legacy. So just wanted to give a little bit of housekeeping. We will record this session and share it out to participants and have it on our website. So look for that once we complete today's session. I also wanted to thank our communications team for helping set this up. And just wanted to provide just a slight overview of CIVHC. We are the Center to Improve Value in Healthcare. We help to support our community partners through data and connection. One of those connections is through our Advanced Care Planning Work Group. Our work group meets bi-monthly and have our next meeting on July 20th. We help to provide education and support other resources across the state around advanced care planning. If any of you would like to learn more or join us, please feel free to reach out to me and we can get you connected. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Robin and she'll get us started. So thank you.
Thank you, Carrie, and I appreciate you having me here today. You'll see, I'm going to share a little story about sort of who I am and how I get started, but this all, resonates a lot with me and my personal mission. And so I appreciate you, inviting me to join your group today. So hello, everybody. I told Carrie earlier, I love presenting on this topic, but I also am very open to just sort of, casual conversation around it. So if you have questions along the way, please feel free to drop those in the chat. Carrie, do we have chat ability here?
Yes, I think we should.
Yeah, so that would be great. And I'm happy to answer questions along the way or towards the end. I will certainly leave some time there as well. So I'll do a quick background introduction of myself. I currently live in a town called Mars, which is outside of the city of Pittsburgh. But when I say things like I'm from Mars, I get funny looks. So I usually default to Pittsburgh. I've been in the estate planning business for about 12 years. And prior to joining Good Trust, I built a company where I was helping families to record their family stories and pass them on alongside their physical assets. So today we're going to talk about all of the things that are important in your world and how you can make sure they get to the important people in your world. So when I joined Good Trust, we realized that we could do this better together than apart, and we joined forces. And so here we are. If it's okay, I'm going to share some slides today just to go through with you. So let me try this. Just one second here. Let me get this. That's not the one. Here we go. Nope, it did the same thing. We are all as
we're working through some technology stuff. It looks like you can switch the view on it if you went to that screen.
Let's see. You know what? It just is different from the way that I usually see it on my own side. I apologize. I want to make sure that you have a good view of what I'm looking at here too.
Well, while Robin's pulling that up, I'll share a little bit more about our Advanced Care Planning Work Group. We are working on a couple of projects this year. One of them is to help provide training and support to our first responders around advanced care planning and the MOST program here in Colorado. So we're working with our EMS partners in South Metro Fire and helping to build those training tools to ensure that they can interpret the advanced care planning while they respond to those emergencies. We're also partnering with Telegen, who is our state quality improvement organization, and helping to provide education surrounding the MOST form, which is the medical orders for scope of treatment, to our partners in long-term care and assisted living, as well as those surveyors that help to support those communities. So I'm very excited about those projects coming up this year. And again, if you'd like to learn more or be part of that work, reach out to me after this.
Very good. Thank you, Carrie. I appreciate the moment there while I was getting myself together. But really, I'm going to give you sort of a high-level introduction here to Good Trust and who we are. And really, our mission is to democratize estate planning. So what that means is really bringing estate planning to everybody who needs it. And in general, we think about estate planning around people who have, a certain amount of money or a certain amount of assets, but really there is no actual number in your bank account that makes it worth passing on. So we believe that everybody should have access to all the tools that they need across the board, no matter their wealth, their age, their income level, or anything else. A few high-level things about us. We are valid in all 50 states. We have about 400,000 members at the moment, but every time I talk about this slide, we're already out of date because our numbers are growing so quickly that we are already over about 425,000 members at this moment. When somebody starts creating their will or trust, it takes about 15 minutes if you know exactly what you want. I generally say allow an hour because then it offers the opportunity to talk through some of your decisions. In comparison, a general attorney, if you were sitting across the table from an attorney, you might spend anywhere between $1,500, $5,000, or sometimes more based on the type of plan that you ultimately choose. So we have helped families to create tens of thousands of wills and trusts at this time. And with our membership, it costs nothing to make changes for an entire year, which is a great feature that also something that you can't get if sitting across the seat from an attorney in an office. We like to think about our service as really the circle of protection. We do offer a will and a trust, which are things that we generally are used to hearing about in an estate plan, but we look at this in a more modern way. So we include a power of attorney, a healthcare directive, pet directives, funeral directives, as well as a digital vault. And we will get into the vault a little bit later, but really this provides a comprehensive plan to make sure that all the pieces that are important to you are taken care of and pre-planned so that it's easier on your family members for later. When we think about who needs estate planning, the numbers really speak for themselves. There's about 71% of people say that it would make them feel like a better parent or a better spouse. And I love this because so much of this has to do with, leaving a legacy behind and how important is it and what is it that people want to share with their family members. And it would make people feel better and have more peace of mind to know that their family members don't have to deal with the difficult things during an already difficult time. But having said that, there's only about 32% of people who have actually created their estate plan. So there's definitely a gap there between the need and the people who have actually taken the steps to create their plan. There's about 55% of people over the age of 55 who don't have a will. And so when we think about who needs a will at what time, we generally begin to think about, retirement age. But we've seen that that there continues to be a big gap in that age range still. So I want to do this cute little exercise just to sort of get your brain thinking a little about why this might be important. And I'd like you to just take a minute. And for those of you who are live here, you could put it into the chat. But if you know your parents' firsts and last names? If you can drop it in the chat, that would be great. Just a yes or a no. Parents' first and last names. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so most people know their parents' first and last names. If I took this one step further, can you name your grandparents' first and last names? Yes, yes. Everybody is a yes so far. Yes, of course. I love it. Let's do one more. Can you name all of your great grandparents' first and last names? That's all 8. Nope. Oh, Donna, you can.
One yes, a couple yeses.
Yeah, there's a couple yeses in there. Not without papers, right? Exactly. So this to me is one of those things that just blows my mind. If you think about it, what we're saying is in just 3 generations, our own family forgets our name. Just think about that for a minute. 3 generations, our own family will forget our name. And so when we talk about leaving things behind, it's about making sure that your family feels that there's a piece of you that they've been able to hang on to. So putting that piece aside for a minute, what is estate planning? Estate planning is really the process of how your assets, the things that you own, are managed after you pass away. There's also the option to create directives. Directives are things like healthcare directives, deciding on how you want your healthcare to be carried out. Funeral directives. If you're somebody who's like, oh, I want to make sure I plan for my funeral. I know what song I want. I know what I want to be wearing. I know who I want to attend. We give the opportunity for you to do that. It's also about deciding who has guardianship over any minor children that may be around during that time. One other thing I'll add in here that's not written, but also planning for your pets is a really big part of this as well. So making sure that all of the things and all of the people and all of your pets are well cared for and well planned for. That's kind of a mouthful. So really what it boils down to is your estate plan is like a GPS for your family when you're no longer in the driver's seat. When we ask, we've done lots of surveys over the years, and we continue to try to understand where it is that people relate to estate planning. And really, the thing that stands out always is planning for children and pets, leaving an inheritance, and that could be in the form of a financial gift. That could be like grandma's ring. That could be, I have grandma's piano in my office, and I always use this as an example, but passing on that piano is considered an inheritance as well, a gift that I want to leave to other family members, and to let my wishes be known so that my family doesn't have to make decisions on my behalf. So I shared with you some of these statistics, right? There's 71% of people who say it would feel better if they had a will or a trust in place, but only about 1/3 of the US population actually has one. Why is that? And we have found that people believe that it is too expensive, too complicated, or that they don't have enough assets to make it, air quotes, worth creating an estate plan. I am here to tell you that none of these have to be barriers from making sure that your family members and other loved ones have access to the things that you want them to. Expense has always been a big piece of estate planning, but thanks to technology, we have really reached a place where this isn't the case anymore. We can now offer estate planning in a way that is accessible to everybody who has a phone or a computer or access to the internet in some way. It's also become far less complicated as we have begun to understand more about what estate planning means and what it requires. We have found that there are ways we can bring the complication level down and make it easy for everybody to do on their own. And I would think about, I don't have enough assets. We hear this from people a lot. They say things like, oh, I don't have enough assets to make it worthwhile. But I would leave you with this question. How many zeros does it take to have in your bank account before it becomes worthwhile? There's no answer to that. 1 0 is enough, right? As long as you have worked hard for whatever those assets are and whatever wealth that you have created for yourself, and that should be passed on. It deserves to be passed on to the next generation or other loved ones, exactly the way that you would want that to be. I'm just going to pause there for a second, Carrie. Are there any questions or anything at this moment?
I'm excited to learn how we can simplify this because it is very, very complicated. And so hoping that there's some tools that might be in your tool belt that can help aid in that. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very good. I'm going to keep cruising through here then and just stop me if there's a question or if you need clarification. When we think about what motivates somebody to get a will, there are these top 3 things that are really the most common. One is a health concern, and this would be, a population that you serve regularly, right? When somebody, either themselves or a close loved one, has a health concern or a medical emergency, it really prompts them to think about what happens next. The other is reaching a retirement milestone, and the last is losing a loved one. All of these things make us sort of think about our own mortality during a time when, in general, many of us don't like to think about what happens later. But these are all moments that really sort of push us to think about that. So I'd like to dive into the differences here between the tools that we have. When you think about estate planning in general, there's 2 tracks, okay? There's the will track and there's the trust track. While there is some overlap between the 2 documents, there are some distinguishing differences. So a will really is a plan that covers your family, your children, assets. You can leave charitable donations. You can leave specific gifts to individuals. A will also always go through probate. Now, probate is what happens after somebody passes away. The will goes to a judge. The judge reads it. He says, Carrie decided she wants her house to go to Joe and her car to go to Jenny. I'm making up names. And the judge will say, it says here, that's exactly what you want. That process is called probate. And those gifts will go to the person that Carrie decided on. With a trust does all of those things, but it avoids the probate process. When you create a trust, you actually transfer the ownership of, for example, your home into the trust. So now the trust is no longer Robin's home. The home is no longer Robin's. The home belongs to now Robin's trust. That way, if I want my son to end up with my home, it doesn't have to go through probate, and he will get it much, much faster because we don't have to wait for a judge and we don't have to wait for somebody to sort of check the box that, yes, this is what they actually wanted. So there is that benefit to a trust. The other thing you can do with a trust that you can't do with a will is you could, for example, say, well, I have, my daughter at 18, I don't want her to come into any financial gifts until she's 21 rather than 18, because I'm afraid she might like go blow it on a sports car. I don't know. You could say things like, my daughter can have X financial gift at the age of 21, as opposed to just saying she can have that gift. So when you have a trust, you have more control over who gets what and when. There are certain times that each of these tools are used. And one of the things that is unique about the way that Good Trust operates is both of these tools are included in one plan. So for example, if you wrote a will today and then bought a house in 3 months and were like, oh, well, I didn't have a house 3 months ago when I wrote my will, you could then scratch the will, write a trust, no additional fees. So everything is included. You have an entire year to make any changes, updates that feel necessary, and you can change them as often as you need. So those are really the two sort of starting points, is a will or a trust. When you choose one of those, let's just say you choose a will. We offer lots of tools along the way. We understand, like you said, Carrie, that estate planning can feel intimidating. It can feel like it's complicated. It can feel like there's a lot. We have done a lot of different things to try and help people along the way. For example, we have lots of articles and videos that help people along the way to make sure that the questions, the common questions that we tend to hear, are answered for you in an easy and consumable way. So if you're somebody who likes to read, we have lots of articles. If you're somebody who likes, snack size videos of little educational snippets, we have those. That way you can always find the answers. We also have a customer service platform that is available and very easy and very responsive.
Robin, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
When having these discussions about either medical planning or estate planning, I feel like I do a lot of educating for my family and trying to help them understand that. And these tools might be helpful, but are you able to send them different things, or, how can you do that to help them get along the journey alongside you?
Yeah. So one of the things that we can do is we can connect to our educational portal, which includes all of the articles and videos in one place. And that is a great resource that you could certainly share with your patients. And then that way it helps them to just sort of figure out which tool feels the best for them. We could certainly send those, we could certainly send along a curated list, if that's helpful, of items that might be more relevant for, individuals that you serve. And that way that feels like something that's curated, that's ready to go for them. One of the other ways that we help people through the process is if there are, as you work through our flow, and I'm happy to show this to you here in a little bit, but as you work through our flow, our questions are built so that they are based on the answer to the last question. Here's an example. If I put in my name and I say I am married, the next set of questions is going to be about my spouse. If I put in my name and I select that I am not married, I will never get questions about my spouse because the system understands that those questions aren't relevant. And so the flow builds and grows as you work through it so that you really aren't prompted with things that are not relevant. The same thing for children, the same thing for pets, the same thing for particular assets. So you will only be delivered questions that are relevant to your particular situation. Beyond that, if you were to get stuck, so we find, for example, when people get to, there are a few questions that when people get to, they tend to stall. And those questions, usually they stall because they require a further conversation. The example might be, who's the executor of your will? The executor is the person who you choose to carry out your wishes whenever you're no longer here. Sometimes that requires a conversation. I might say, oh, who do I want the executor to be? My brother, my sister, who do I pick? And so we provide educational emails at that moment, where if you get stuck, air quotes, stuck on a question for a period of time, you will get an email that says, hey, I can see that, you're making decisions about your executor. Here are some resources about what an executor is, how to choose an executor, and what qualities you might look for, in the right executor for you. And so we provide materials along the way for all of the series and all of the questions throughout our entire will and trust flow. Does that answer your question, Carrie?
Yes, thank you.
In a very long
way. That's okay. That's good.
Yeah. I think that piece, though, is very helpful. And, we believe in education first. We realize that this is a very important piece to leaving a legacy, and we want people to feel comfortable that they're making the right decisions.
The conversation is critical. That's
exactly.
We talk about with the medical orders and things like that. It's the conversation that's the most important, because that helps to get everyone on the same page. So
yes, exactly. And I love that you're having these conversations already, because it's not something that people enjoy talking about necessarily, but there is a level of peace of mind and, comfort knowing that they can do this on their own without really having to even take off their slippers if they don't want to. And, we have been featured in lots of different media areas, the Wall Street Journal, CBS News, AARP is a partner of ours, Forbes, Wired. So we are very well respected, across the board. I promised that I would go into the vault a little bit. So this is a piece that I'd like to just spend a few moments on. And I like to call this not your typical vault, because when we think of this word vault, people tend to think about like a virtual filing cabinet. And this is, although we have the ability to store all of your forms, papers, important information in the vault, we also take it one step further. If you think about your entire online life, things like email, social media accounts, bank accounts, your things like cryptocurrency, all of these things that we have in an online format. And let's be honest, I don't think our online lives are going anywhere anytime soon. They just seem to keep growing and growing. And this is a way to be able to pass on your digital life right alongside your physical assets. And so here in the vault, you have the opportunity to choose, for example, I don't know, maybe I'll say Facebook, and I can select my husband will have access to my Facebook account, and I can leave him an instruction that says, please memorialize my account. Here's the information you need to know. My username, my handle, so that he knows where to go. And then I can grant him access. There's a little toggle that allows me to say, Tim can have access when I pass away, or Tim can have access on a particular day, today, or never. And I could do that with each individual asset. So maybe he needs access to Facebook and my bank account, but my mom should have access to my Google Photos. It makes it very simple to be able to decide who can have access to what and when. This piece takes it to a whole nother level of passing on the important things. And I shared with you a little in the beginning, my love for storytelling, and that includes photos and videos. this is a way to really make sure that those memories are captured and that your family story is passed on right alongside all of your other assets.
That is so cool. We do have one question in the chat, and thank you, Karen, for putting that in there. Are you part of the AARP Age Tech Collaborative?
Oh, yes. Yes, we are. We have participated in that, and we continue to. That's a really great event. Yes, if you go to that too, was it Karen? Karen, yes, we should connect.
Yeah, Karen does a lot of technology with the Aging 2.0 in Colorado. So,
oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I did have one other question. I had a friend that her son passed away suddenly and she wasn't able to get into his phone. Is that something that you can put in there?
Yes, yes. And thank you for bringing that up. I'm sorry that that happened to your friend. This, unfortunately, is a story that I hear over and over again. And, we have to sort of say, like, kudos to Apple and kudos to Google for not just willingly giving away passwords. But there is so much, if you think about how much information is in your phone, and family members not being able to have access to that is definitely a huge challenge and is very, very difficult. In the vault, and like I said, I will show you here in a couple of minutes exactly how it works. In the vault, I could put, for example, my phone, and then I have the option to type in my passcode if I want to type it. We have a swipe gesture. So if you have a swipe gesture on your phone, you could choose that, and you can provide information about what's in there. So for example, I might say, go to my photos, choose album of kids. And then they would know that I have this album that has pictures of the kids and I want them to find it. So yes, exactly. Perfect example.
That's really helpful.
I'm going to sort of breeze through a little bit of this pretty quickly because this is a little bit of an overview of what we just talked about, but I like to drive these points home just that it's an all-in-one platform where everything is included at one price, which is one of the features that makes us stand out against others. Our plans also are for the whole family. So for example, if you have one membership, then you can use that membership for up to 5 adults who live within the household. That means that you and your spouse don't need to buy separate plans. If you are of the sandwich generation and mom and dad are living with you as well as your adult children, you also don't have to buy an individual plan for everybody in the household. So we recognize that, family situations are unique, and we want to be able to offer this to as many people as we possibly can, democratizing asset access. And this is one of the ways that we do it. Our products are, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yep, we have another question from Karen, which kind of ties in here is, have you partnered with any senior living communities to offer this as a service to potential residents?
Yeah, so definitely age tech and seniors is a vertical that we cover, and it is definitely something that we support and we continue to grow in that area. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so our service is backed by best in class industry leading technology experts that are from Google and HTC and have built leading companies, globally. So we have really, really strong backing in the technology side. We talked about democratizing access. We went over the vault. This is sort of just an overview of some of the things that we've talked about, bringing it all together. There are a few different ways that we work with companies. I'm just sharing this with you as sort of a high level overview. We have a direct to consumer, which means anybody can go right to the website at any time and find a membership that way. We also work with companies in a license structure or in a revenue share structure, and I'm happy to get into that with anybody who has further questions, but we won't dive too far into that today.
We got one more question from Donna. Thank you for sharing that. You said you can make changes anytime during a 1-year period. Once you become a member, is there a monthly fee to maintain your info? And can your family access that when you die? Like, does it continue so that they can maintain that access?
Yeah, great questions. Great questions. So the first question I think you said was, what happens after that first year?
Mhm.
I can get to the chat here. Okay, right. So if you were a consumer, if you went to the website today, you would pay $149 for full access to all of the tools that we've talked about today. That allows you an entire year to make any changes to any of the documents there. After the first year, it goes to $39 a year. And so for your second year, third year, any year following that, it would just be $39. There is no monthly fee that is attached to any of that. It is a one-time fee for year one. It's a lower fee for year two and every consecutive year after that. There was a question too, is the monthly fee to maintain info so your family can access when you die? Oh, I think you're asking, if you stop paying, will your family lose access? Is that maybe what you're asking? The answer is no. Once your information is completed, we follow the same rules that an estate planning attorney would follow if you were sitting across the table from them. So what that means is when you complete your estate plan, you would print it, sign it, date it, have it notarized or witnessed. Most states require witnesses. If it's a trust, some states require a notary. We provide all that information based on which state you are completing your forms for. But they all require your documents to be printed in paper and signed. So anytime a change is made, you would have to print, sign, and store it in a physical location. This is true across the board, although we can see that change is probably coming, where lots of states are advocating for digital wills and digital trusts from beginning to end, meaning including the signature. We're just not there yet. I hope that answered your question. If you have a follow-up to that, please just let me know. Yeah. These are some of the partners to your point here. Partnering with AARP, we are the preferred estate planning partner with AOL and Yahoo. Caring.com, which is probably a common resource that you use. We partner with them. We are currently working on a really big thought leadership piece with them. I'm super excited about it. I wish I could tell you what it's called, but I can't tell you yet because it's not published yet, but we actually are very close to that. And I'll be happy to share it with your organization as soon as it's ready to go. Others that we partner with, the VA, homesteaders and others, these are just a sort of snapshot of some of the verticals that we cover. I like to share this story because it's a little bit heartwarming. We focus on democratizing estate planning, and I just like to give a little view about how we have done that. We partnered with a community called the Malanan Project, who hosted the Wealth Literacy Conference, and Afra Smith is the leader of this group, and Afra helps underserved communities to find financial literacy and to protect their own financial nest egg. So as a way to democratize estate planning, we gifted 1,000 estate plans to her community so that she could give them out during this conference. And this is just one way. We really think it's important to give back to the communities around us and help everybody to protect what truly matters. So when getting started it's really as simple as it gets. And this goes back, Carrie, to like making the complicated uncomplicated. You simply choose a will or a trust, add some personal information, print it out, sign it, and keep it in a safe place. We've really built it in a way that makes it very easy to work through. And if you see in here, there's this little blue button. I like to say, follow the blue button, because it leads you along the way. And each time that you click that button, it's going to take you to the next step and really bring up the questions that are relevant just for you. Having said that, I would love to give you all the opportunity to try it on your own. And so you can see exactly how easy it is to work through yourself. So if you scan the code here, and I'm happy to send this if somebody's watching it on their phone and you're like, I can't scan it, you know, I'm happy to send this forward. But this offers you a free account with Good Trust for an entire year, just as if you were a paying member. So I'd love for you to take advantage of that today. Write your own will, your own trust, directives, whatever tools feel right for you, and give it a test drive and see what you think. I'll leave that up there just for a minute. Are there any questions that I can answer at the moment?
You mentioned pets and planning for them. And Bjorn's my dog, and he's like my fur child, and I would want to make sure that he's taken care of. So how does that work?
Yes. So
sorry, Karen's asked 2 questions. So let's maybe answer that first. How do we price licenses? Sorry, Karen.
So our license model is based on the number of people that we are covering. I'm happy to go through that with you more in detail, but it's based on volume or organization size.
I'll make sure that you 2 connect after this and you can chat through that.
That would be great. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take you over to
This is Bjorn.
Oh, I love it. Aw. Bjorn is also the name of my coworker. So when you said Bjorn is my puppy for a minute, I was like, do you know Bjorn? Are we making a joke?
I did see that.
Okay, so you can see my screen now with the Good Trust website, yes?
And Peggy asked another question. Any resources for solo agers? That's one thing that has been a good discussion across Colorado, and I'm sure across the states, is how do we plan for those, and how do you assign a decision maker and a support when you're aging by yourself? So
yeah, that is a great question. And this is actually, it's funny that you say that, because I just this morning had approved an article that was written by one of our team members about estate planning for singles. And you're right that there are certain things that need to be considered. And we are always putting out more and more resources, you know, trying to cover all of the different situations that might arise. So yes, absolutely. We continue to provide, you know, information on that. So you can see the website here, correct?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to start here. I went into my dashboard and I'm going to show you the vault just as a starting point. So if I come down here and I say add account, and then I'm going to go to account info, and this pulls up all of these different accounts that we have, or different organizations that we have collected to make it very, very simple for you. So let's just say I was going to choose.
So these are the accounts you can add of different places that we have passwords and all sorts of information.
Exactly. Right. So let's just say, for example, I'm going to choose PayPal, and here you can select what's called a trusted contact. A trusted contact is the person who you want to have access to your things. Okay, so I'm going to choose Ricard. And then I'm going to say PayPal. And then over here, I'm going to say, look for any additional money. I'll leave him a little smiley face so he knows what to look for. Okay. And then I'm going to save this, and he will get information. He will get a ping that says you've been added as a trusted contact. And now I know that he will have access to that. Now I can go back in here and I can change this. I don't want him to have access right now. I want him to wait until later because he doesn't need to get into my PayPal account right now. And it's easy. It's as easy as that. So any of these accounts, if I wanted to go in and select, any other one, for example, this is one that sometimes people don't think about, like your airline miles. I think I just scrolled past it.
I was going to say that it's nice that you have some of these on here, because I wouldn't even have, the list is endless.
Exactly. It just jogs your memory. So let's go back out because you asked.
Thought I'm having, Karen. I appreciate the comment in there. There's just a lot.
So
sorry.
I can see your question here about how many online accounts that we have. They say that most people have about 100 online accounts, but before that makes your heart race, let's just think about it for a minute, because even if there's 100 online accounts, that doesn't mean that all 100 are important, right? It means that the top maybe 10 or 15 or 30 that you could rattle off right now, those are the ones that we should be thinking about and planning for. So for example, Amazon, if we have a Amazon Prime account, without a loved one knowing that you have an Amazon account, you may continue to get charged for that every year and every year and every year until somebody puts a stop to it. So things like that have subscriptions or memberships or ongoing payments, we want to make sure that those are included, because those are things that are really going to make a dent. If it's something like, oh, I signed up for the local gas station to get perks, maybe that doesn't need to be included. So there's definitely the ones that maybe outweigh the others. And I'm going to go back here to the beginning just because I want to show you the flow quickly. And here's what I mean by follow the blue square, the blue button. You put your name in here and click save, moving on to the next. Some of my information, this is a dummy account, just. And here, if I choose that I am single, it takes away all those questions about who my spouse is. Same thing. Do I have children? No children? It's not going to ask me any of those questions. Now, the whole flow just shrank when I took this to no. This is the whole flow right here. If I say, yes, I have pets. So Carrie, this is one way that you could include your pet in here. So you would say your pet is maybe a Bichon. Not sure. Maybe a doodle.
He's Bichon. Good.
Okay.
Good.
Good. Okay. I might say I'm going to give $500 for him, and I'm going to leave it to my son. So that way, that information is there. Now there's no question about where Bjorn, your puppy, ends up. There are additional questions here, like what happens if, in my example, my son can't take the dog, or, maybe something happened to my son and he's not there. What are my other options? You can make the next best decision that feels right for you. And again, all of this information grows as you select your answer. so that you only get prompted with the appropriate questions. The entire flow is that way. And I just want to back up here and show you the rest of the tools work the exact same way. So just for a little more insight here, if I go into the pet directive, so in the will, which is what we just did, it allows you to say, I want my dog Bjorn to go to my neighbor Sam. Here, you can put in as much information as you need. So for example, does your pet have any special markings? Is your pet neutered? Is your pet microchipped? So this is where the real details come in, so that if somebody was caring for your dog, they would have all the information that they need. There's other things which I think tend to be the most important. Your pet gets along well with children. If you imagine your pet being rehomed, you would never want to risk, a child or with, a pet that isn't good around kids, or vice versa. If there's a pet who is, maybe shy or gets anxious around children or busyness or lots of people, you would want to make sure that they end up in a place that feels comfortable for them and comfortable for you. So this pet directive really allows you to make all of those decisions, but also really serves as a tool of information for the person who's going to care for your pet.
I saw in the list that you have advanced directives in there. I think the group would be interested to see how that is. Colorado passed a law to create a registry that's still in progress. And so if there's an electronic way that you can tie this in, that would be interesting.
So when you work through the healthcare directive, you'll see this starting page always looks exactly the same, and it also populates for you. So any information that is the same from one form to the next automatically populates, so you don't feel like you're like, oh my gosh, I have to put my name in again. It does it for you. So you could see how all of this populates on its own. This gives you the opportunity to choose your physician. You can add in their information here. Oh, there, okay. You can add an alternate physician if that was something that feels right. A health agent, which is the person who would be responsible for carrying out your wishes. You can have as many people as you would like. You can continue to add second or alternates as you want to, and you can offer them some directions about when you would like this agent to, when their decision-making can go into effect, and also, what you would like and what your wishes are. So here is where you really get into the details of what you would want. And you can make decisions here. Again, see how things grow based on what your answers are. And it will allow you to leave any specific information that you want. And then down here, there's an opportunity to add anything that may not have been included, above. So
we have just a few minutes left. So if anyone has any other questions, and Robin, if there's anything else that you wanted to touch on, that advanced care planning piece is really interesting to have it in there and tied all together with all the other pieces, just to have it in one place that makes it a lot easier. Are you able to print those and then share, or can you share electronically the advanced directives? How does that work?
Yes, so advanced directives can be anything that requires a signature has to be printed. That's the law. We need to follow it, just the same as anybody else. So yes, the directives need to be printed, something like a pet directive. Now that and a funeral directive, which are two tools that we have, those are not legal documents. So they don't require a wet signature or a witness or anything like that. That is something that can be shared electronically, through email or through Good Trust. You could connect it to a trusted contact who would then have access to those documents as you want them to. So those can be shared electronically. When it comes to wills and trusts, if you share them electronically, that is up to you. You can do that through a trusted contact, but they are not considered a legal document unless they are printed and signed. So,
Thank you.
You are welcome. You're welcome.
Right. It doesn't look like we've got any other questions. Robin, any last thoughts that you might have?
Yeah, I appreciate everybody giving me the opportunity to connect with you today. I'm happy to answer any further questions if they sort of come up afterwards, which I know sometimes that happens. And maybe Carrie, you can share my information. I'm also happy to share out that QR code for access to
that would be, I think, helpful as I share it to the registrants and some of the other partners that we work with. That would be wonderful.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely.
All right.
Very good.
Well, thank you so much, Robin. And thank you everyone for joining us today. As mentioned, we will share the recording and contact information and look forward to continuing to learn more as we dig into this. So
that's great. Thank you, Carrie.
Robin.
You're welcome.
Bye, everyone.